I've heard some really excellent ideas here, and I've seen a real bipartisan spirit in finding real solutions. So I think it's a great morning, and I think we've accomplished a lot. I, first of all, have a hypothetical question for Mr. McLain and Mr. Collard. If the no-show rate were reduced to 5%, which we've heard is attainable, and physicians were relieved of the non-value-added requirements, which is a phrase Mr. Collard used, would there be enough physicians to provide health care that's needed to our veterans?
I haven't actually done the math or done the analysis on this, but it certainly would help. There isn't any question about it. And that would certainly bring it closer to what the commercial expectation would be in health care delivery.
I think it's a question that's answerable. We probably don't, none of us at the table have the math, but it's a question that's answerable because the variables are real variables.
I'll give you the 2012 report that was provided to Congress on just this issue, assessing how to assess the need for additional physicians at each location.
Please be brief.
I'm just going to give you the report after them.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McLain, would you talk about the current state of affairs regarding transfer of patient data between the private sector and the VA, and if there are barriers, how could we reduce those barriers?
We had a problem when we started out in Project Hero. We were not able to immediately input any data into the VA's medical record. In other words, we maintained a network of specialists, and so a veteran would be referred out to a specialist, and you would get a consult, and you would get a written consult report that we ended up faxing back to the VA, and apparently then it was detached in a PDF form and attached to the CPRS, to the veteran's record. In the C-Box, it's a different thing. I mean, we're essentially part of the VHA healthcare system, and we have access to VISTA and to CPRS. But it's very, very difficult. I understand the firewalls. I understand certainly the privacy issues. I understand the IT issues that come up. But there has been a lot of work done in the commercial and civilian sector on exchange of information. I think the answer to your question is DOD and VA have been trying for over 10 years to exchange information, and they have been very successful.
Thank you. Mr. Collard, in your testimony, used a new term I haven't heard before, evidence-based leadership. Are there models for identifying evidence-based leadership? Is there some way we can move forward in helping to identify that?
Yeah, I think what you would find are, as you look at the models and the structures, the parallels to the other side of our evidence-based world, and that's evidence-based care. One, you begin with a diagnosis before a prescription. And so the notion of an assessment prior to just jumping into the fray becomes key. Then the alignment towards an eventual outcome, which is really where evidence-based care goes. So alignment of goals or those desired outcomes, which also includes the proper training as a physician would receive that provides evidence-based care. The aligning of behaviors, so the agreed upon behaviors to produce the outcome. And then a topic that we've not even come close to talking about today, but has been shown in some of the latest bills, the ability to manage the performance gap much better. Whether it's, and we'll push the organized labor issue aside for a second, because we have organizations that are highly organized, that are very successful in managing performance, and they don't let the presence of a union stand in the way. But the ability to first and foremost re-recruit the highest performers in the enterprise, the ability to look for those that seek and can benefit from development, and in our industry-wide, the ability to quit hanging on to the low performers that drag the rest of the industry down. Because and we can argue the ends, if it's an N of one and N of two, but if it's my grandmother in the bed, that low performer is probably causal to a lack of good care. What that brings us then to, much like evidence-based care, is through research, through vetting of the data and the outcomes, the ability to standardize, and the ability then to accelerate that standardization. That's kind of a quick model of evidence-based leadership.